My name is Jane Joyner, and I'm here today to talk to you about creativity and activism. But first, I'm going to talk about religion and climate change, because I like to go for the easy topics. I've been a climate activist my whole life, my whole adult life. It's pretty much all I know how to do at this point, other than to pour coffee and make a mean mimosa, which is not a skill that should be underestimated. It's how I met my husband. But this is complicated by the fact that my father is an evangelical megachurch pastor and a fierce climate skeptic. So I caught the activist bug when I was in college, or more specifically studying abroad in New Zealand, where I was hanging out with a bunch of hippies and running around in the most magical landscapes that you can possibly imagine. And even though I was a pretty proud heathen at that point, it was a very, very spiritual experience, and I really kind of fell in love with this earth and just had this deep desire to protect it. So I moved home, and I changed my major to environmental studies, and my father promptly cut off my tuition. So I moved back to New Zealand, and a few months later got into kind of a harrowing youthful misadventure that involved an actual shipwreck. And my father came back to the negotiating table in an effort to get me home and said he would pay for my tuition again. So I came home and went back to college, but he still wasn't sold on my career choice. In college, I quickly kind of realized that science wasn't my strength, but communication was something that I loved. So I switched my major to communication, or rhetoric to be specific. And any student of rhetoric will tell you that the first thing you learn is that in order to persuade your audience, you have to know them. So I decided to try that trick on my dad, and I read the Bible, and I learned that it has all of these rich stories and narratives around caring for God's creation, and good stewardship, and loving your neighbor. And I wrote my senior thesis on it, and that launched me into this kind of strange niche career of faith-based environmental activism, where I've been honored to speak to and engage people of faith all over the world in climate change and caring for the environment. I've led campaigns, I've organized lobby weeks and music tours, I've produced short films, and I was even featured in a Showtime documentary series called Years of Living Dangerously. But what I learned through that work was that it wasn't just the power of using religious narratives to inspire people of faith. It was also the power of intimately getting to know an audience, to learn their language and their stories, and to build campaigns and content that were specific to them and reach them where they were. Great artists and storytellers will tell you that you find the universal in the specific, but it doesn't work the other way. As one of my mentors likes to say, if you don't know who your audience is, you're just building a campaign for yourself. Another way of saying it is that, another way of saying it is that if you're trying to reach everyone, then you're probably not going to reach much of anyone. So since then, I've worked on campaigns for both people of faith, but also yogis and urban birders and moms and conservative business leaders in Florida. I even just did a project where our target audience was Whole Foods obsessed dudes who love to go on cruises. And the projects and the audiences vary, but the goal stays the same. It's to intimately get to know who we're talking to understand how to speak to them, their language and their stories, to build content and campaigns that reach them where they are. So that's pretty hard to do. It takes resources, it takes skills, it takes research and time and capacity. And oftentimes in the world of activism, we tend to jump straight to the ask or to the issue, and we fail to do the deep creative work of figuring out how to meet people where they are. But it's critical that we don't skip this piece, because no matter how important our issues are or how brilliant our solutions are, if we can't get more people to care about them, we can't succeed. You may wonder what happened to me and my dad, and I'm sorry to report he's still a climate skeptic. But he does call himself an environmentalist now, and he likewise hates the pollution from coal-fired power plants, so that's a start. Yeah, so thank you.